Yes. And I think that's what the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer. I think it's a mindset thing, right? I think a lot of people, they get, stuck, thinking, oh, oh, the rich, yeah, they have it easy, have all these other assets and stuff like that. Look at me, we're just trying to make ends meet and stuff. But I think it's a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But I think I seriously think it's a mindset thing, and a lot of the poor people that I know, it's like they're kind of like, oh, they blame, right? They blame, oh, it's because my parents didn't leave me any money. They didn't do this, they didn't do that, right? Whereas a lot of rich people that I kind of talk to, they take responsibility. They go like, no, I did do this, I do that. I get the whole the inequality and all that other stuff, and family backgrounds and all that. But I truly think, like, someone who's quote unquote poor, if they have the right mindset and they have the right kind of mentality, that work hard and do whatever it takes, they can one day be rich, right? Like, change that mindset to, I think a lot of um yeah, kind of quote unquote poor people I talk to, right? They consume a lot of things, like talking about the assets and
Yeah.
liabilities, right? They run a lot of debt just to kind of keep up with the Joneses, right? So they'll appear rich, to their friends, because they're kind of like, I wanna kind of show off that we've made it, right?
Yeah.
They'll drive like the Audis and the Mercedes, and then give off that whiff of being really rich, but like a lease payment for one of those, right? My wife used to own a BMW,
I
so I
know.
know.
I know about all about the
Five,
BMW. I'll tell you,
five, $600 a
that was
month.
the biggest mistake she made. I'll tell you that. When she told me, when she signed that lease, I was like, it was no, I think she was like 2 or 3 years in, right,
Yep,
in her business
yep,
at that time,
yep,
and she was making, it was, I think it was the first year she got over 6 digits, or
yep,
she earned 6 digit commission. I think it was, no, it was on the lower end. It was like maybe like 120 around there, right?
yep,
And she signed that
yep.
BMW lease,
Oh
and
yeah,
I was
that's
like,
our
oh,
dream.
it was like, oh my god, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that ever,
Yep.
um, that she made. But no, she got that experience,
And
and
now we drive a Rav4.
it's because you have the baby now, right?
Yeah, and it's like $500 a month.
Yeah,
And then I was like, and better than that, and we paid it off because we're like, interest rates were like, at that time, like you said, were 1.5%. I have a HELOC,
yeah,
and I'm like, why am I paying Toyota 3.5%? Like, this makes no sense,
yeah.
So I just purchased it, and I'm like, especially with COVID upside down, right? People was like, oh, used cars are depreciating assets, but
No,
in this world we
oh
live in,
no, no, no,
they
no.
appreciate.
If your wife had that BMW, whatever, it was
Yeah,
like it was like
three
325,
series.
3 series,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like one of my clients, like she had a BMW 3 series that was, no, the lease was coming to an end, right?
yeah,
And like she could buy it out for like, 25 grand, right? And
yeah.
because of the shortage of all the, the vehicles on the market, like she could
Right.
resell it for like 38,000, right?
Yep.
And it was ridiculous, like in terms of, what, no, the car market. But I mean, this whole semiconductor thing, that's an entirely different discussion, right?
Yeah. Which we could talk about in another episode.
Yeah.
But no, that's the thing, right? So what we're talking about now, we might look back 5 years, 10 years from now, and be like, we're just completely off the grid because this market, right? This world is just, it could be turned upside down,
Well, it's not.
right? And
It's not necessarily that, right? And if we go back to the conversation of, being able to work remote, anywhere at this point, right?
right.
I think it will. No, things at the end of the day will normalize, right?
Yeah.
No, in at least our capitalistic system, right?
Right.
I just said, 10 minutes ago, rich get richer, poor get poorer. Those who own assets will continue to, dominate. They'll be able to control,
Right.
where asset appreciation ends up going, right? But
Right.
at the end of the day, things will normalize, and those who want to live, in, I would say affluent cities, right, will continue to
Yeah.
live in affluent cities regardless what the price will be, right?
Right.
And they'll pay the price, and in our city, like Amazon's moving in, Disney's moving in, right? CD Project Red is moving in, right? Like,
Yeah.
all these big major companies will, attract talent from around the world, and they'll pay the mega salaries, and the city will become more expensive. But with the opportunity in the hybrid model to work where you want nowadays, right? It's like I think it's something the millennial, right, being me on the older side of the millennial, right, didn't really have an opportunity, grow to have. Right? If you're 20 years old, or 22 years old, coming out of university right now, right, and like I work in in some parts of my job right now, I work in data, right,
Right.
and like to and back then, like hiring someone with a management information systems degree, like you would think like, what the hell do MIS students actually become, right? And they tell you, it's like, I'm a business analyst. And like, what the hell does that even mean, right? I finally get it today. Like, I actually understand what data analytics is now. But
Right.
like those data analytics guys coming out, those guys who mine data, like they're making like 80 grand out the door, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to hire like a data guy right now, right?
Yeah.
Within my organization,
Right.
the market value for these guys are like 115 grand, right? And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, why the hell did I become an accountant? Right? Like, you think about it, coming out of school, you're an accountant. I made 27 grand the first year I came out, right? I mean, new
Oh
students
yeah.
nowadays, they're making 45, right?
Right.
No, the year they become a CPA, they're making like 80 grand, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, those are tough. I mean, for you to basically go get your 4 years of undergrad, go spend like 2.5, 3 years to become a CPA, and you're making 80 grand, right?
Right.
Versus going into computer science right now, and you can learn computer science like whether you finish with a degree or not, you can you have the opportunity to learn computer science. You can't just learn accounting, within going to school. You
Right.
just won't have the application, right? But
Yeah.
coming out with a salary of like 85, and within 3 years you manage you're making 115, right? That will
Yeah.
continue to screw the persons who don't have the individuals who don't have the skill set to compete in an inflationary environment that we live in, right?
Right.
Like if we're like I think one of the biggest focus of our discussion tonight was housing, right?
Yeah.
Like if everyone out there is making $115,000, what is basically the base, or
Right.
the status quo of a down
Right.
payment, or cost of condo, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. No. And that's the thing. I mean, yeah. Like I didn't know accountants made that little until after leaving, right? I thought. I mean, it was so glamorous, right? I mean, remember I
you
was
think
Well, yeah. I went to the bank. The
red
other
carpets.
second glamorous.
No, the red.
Yeah.
Remember the red carpet meetings in September every year. They roll out and they have the big meetings for recruitment every year, right?
Well, yeah, and so it was kind of like the thing, right? It's kind of like, oh, you want to be a business owner? That was the thing. That's why I chose accounting specialization,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner, and then they're like, oh, accounting is the language of business, and I was like, okay, sold. Right. And then they have these fancy, hotel, recruits and stuff. And I remember kind of just eating the dim sums and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. Right. And then they bring on a couple of people and they're like talking about, yeah, we get to travel for work. We get to go this place and that place. And you're like, oh my goodness, you get paid to travel. You get this fancy designation, right? The CPA, you got the status. And then it's like, okay, I just want to sign up.
Yeah.
Right. But I hear my friends, right? They're kind of like, no, Kendall, like it's, like, again, this is like fast forward, like, I didn't get in. And then they tell me, I was like, yeah, you don't want to be here. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, you work long hours. He's like, I don't even know if I'm being paid like minimum wage right now. Like, I have to work. And then but it's glamorous, right? Just like, back in my university, it was glamorous to kind of like pull all-nighters.
Yeah.
So they made kind of like, what?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, where I am now, it's not bad. But for me,
well, you jumped out of the big accounting firms and started your own thing.
I got fired, right?
Oh,
yeah. That's the only reason I started my own firm, right? Is because I got fired and I had no opportunity to, right?
Right.
No, I had opportunity. I could have went back to work, right? But I think this is a really good discussion for the millennial with the whole Great Resignation, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't resign. I got fired at the end of the day for I'm just gonna blame poor manager at the end of the day. That's again my opinion, my bias, right? I think I was thrown under the bus, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, no, like, at the end of the day, like it took 10 years, 12 years from me from an accounting student to get to where I am now, right?
Right.
It's difficult, right? Where
Hmm.
it wasn't an easy road, and I was and I am still working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, right? To
Right.
to survive, right? To
Yes.
pay for my mortgage, to pay for $5 heads of lettuce at the end of the day, right? But I do well based on where I am now, but I had to put in the grind, right?
Yes.
I have been working basically equivalent of two jobs for the last
Yep.
10 years, right?
Right.
And not everyone has that opportunity or is willing to do that, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing with millennials, right? That they, a lot of articles are talking about, right? That, they're that sense of entitlement,
Yeah.
right? Maybe not so, I don't know about millennials because I didn't feel I was entitled. But like, I mean, the next generation, because again, I have a client sharing with me, this person joining their firm with CPA and with like they had to give her a fancy title,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of bring them on board. And then she comes in this new company, this property management company, and she's kind of like all that kind of like like I came from this big four firm, and kind of like or she knows nothing, right? My client was has been in this company for like I think yeah, like five plus years,
Sure.
and she knows a lot of things, right? But this new like kind of like not a student, but like again like kind of mid career kind of came in thinking like again Mrs. Know It All, right?
Yeah.
And was like, I know this, I know this, give me a report this, and it wasn't again no humility. Just came in saying like I used to be like a senior or not senior like yeah senior accountant from this, and it's like show me this, right? And I was kind of like and my client was like, girl,
Mm-hmm.
you have no idea, right?
Yeah.
and and it's like have some, she didn't say like have some humility, but in her mind was kind of like, well, you know what, like if you're not going to humble yourself and kind of ask nicely, we're not gonna help you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like go figure it out yourself. And I think that's I mean for the millennials that are listening, right? It's like you gotta eat some humble pie and just recognize that, hey, yeah, you have this, that you got this designation,
Yeah.
but that's not the end all be all, right? You've got these seniors that are in their positions because they worked hard too, just because they have no designation, but they've got experience on you. And you want to kind of move up along the chain, right? Show some respect, right? Like, yeah, you got your education and stuff, but these people put in the hard hours, put in a lot of things. They could mentor you, right? You got to be nice, right? What comes around goes around, right? You can't go in just charging away and being like, yeah, look at me, I was like top student, do this, and now you gotta beat my chest and like listen to me, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I mean, I was one, right? So if you, I mean, just rather than speaking about hypotheticals, I was one of those people, right? That's why I was like, go to big four or go home, right? I was too arrogant
Yeah.
to be like, okay, try the smaller firms,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, okay, beat my chest. I'm like, no one wants me.
I
I'm
remember
gonna
that
leave accountant.
conversation.
I'm gonna go to the big five banks.
Yeah.
But guess where I started at the big five banks? I started as a teller.
Yeah. I
Right?
remember.
I wasn't a business analyst. I wasn't a commercial banking associate. I was a teller
With a university degree.
with the university degree, right? And here I am thinking that I'm gonna be a staff accountant or like some kind of associate, but no, all it took was I just needed to be a teller,
Yeah.
right? And I wanted to be a teller in like first year, but then I had the skills, from all the different things I was doing. Like I was really good at sales, and I didn't know that, right? And with the banks, it was kind of like, I kind of just, how I got my job was I was fundraising for Scouts Canada, selling popcorn, and I needed to hit my quota, and so I just asked the front, right? I was like, hey, would you like popcorn? And then the rep was like, how did you know I wanted popcorn? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just trying to hit a fundraising target. We're going on an international project. And the manager of customer service overheard that, and they're like, hey, do you speak another language? I was like, yeah, I speak Mandarin and Cantonese. He's like, good, can you come for an interview on Christmas Eve? And I was like, sure. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. And then I got in and did the interview, and really left an impression. And the way I go, that's kind of how I started, right? And then again, like, did school help me? No. Like, it was this volunteer activity that I was trying to fundraise money, and it got me my entry into into the big bank. And the thing is with the big banks, like, with tellers, right? Like, again, to the millennials, it's okay to start as a teller, because guess what? Once you enter into a teller, you got the internal databases to kind of apply for all those other positions. So the students I kind of mentor right now, right? I tell them, I'm like, there's no shame in starting as a teller when you're in second or third year. Get in, start meeting the people, start making friends. Because I had a friend who did that, right? He was a teller, and then when he was graduating, he just did so much networking that he was the commercial banking analyst, because he just kind of talked and had coffee chats and all this other stuff. And I was like, dude, like, why didn't I think of that? Right. I was so cocky. I was like, I have to start as one of those, like, big analyst, big title, fancy thing, that I couldn't humble myself and just start at the bottom. Right. And it's okay to start at the bottom. Right. Just get in the door. And that's all you need to do. But I mean, eventually I left and I'm doing my own company now. And
You know, I'm shaking my head though.
why?
Okay, so I mean, our topic tonight is about millennials at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the biggest things, at least with our generation, is instant gratification.
Oh yeah.
No one wants to start at the
100%.
bottom. Come on, Kenneth. Right? No one wants to be a teller, right? Everyone wants to graduate from school and make their $60,000 salary. They don't want a salary of what, 30 grand, right? So you're telling these kids, no, and in all realistic, I agree with you, right? To be real,
Yeah.
completely honest with you, I agree with you. No, the experience means everything at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? You can have, you can be like Bobby Smith, CFP, CA, MBA, CFP, XYZ, ABC, barbecue, whatever, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, if you don't have the work experience, you're gonna be a shit employee at the end of the day. But
Oh yeah.
in that sense, right? Instant gratification is something is ingrained, at least within our age group, right? And I
Yeah.
think even the generation beyond us, right?
Well, even my toddler,
I think
right?
it's even
He's
worse.
watching YouTube and he needs that. He needs the YouTube. Right.
Well, the thing. Look at it this way: ads. Who wants to watch ads?
Nope.
Right? Like, we watched ads growing up, right?
Oh yeah.
And we had to, because the only source of entertainment was a TV cable, right? But I mean, if you want to skip ads, you got a couple of options. You either buy a premium
Yep.
subscription, or you turn on an ad block, and hopefully that works, right? But
Yep.
for the most part, like it's instant gratification, which is one of the big base topics of being a millennial at the end of the day. Where
Yep.
and I think this stems from possibly our upbringing, right?
Okay.
Where no, our parents' generation, they had it rough, right?
Right.
Whether or not you were born here, or whether or not you came here as an immigrant, like our parents' generation, like everyone was poor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Whether you're a Canadian or an immigrant, you were poor, right?
Right.
And the whole point, right, is basically, how can I make a life better for my kids at the end of the day? Well, like, what can I do to make Brandon's life better? What can I use to make Kennel's life better, right? And
Right.
they've invested in us, right, to
Mm-hmm.
make our lives better. And as we experience things, we wanted things now, right?
Yeah.
We didn't want to go through the whole grind. No one wants to be a teller, in all seriousness. Everyone wants to be a commercial banking analyst right off the bat.
Yeah.
Everyone wants Big Four off the bat, right? It doesn't
Yep.
happen for everyone, right?
Nope.
But the millennial and the Gen Z are going to get continued to get screwed, right? With the
Yep.
whole concept of instant gratification, just because things are so available to us today, right?
Well, I mean, talk about. I'm gonna jump in real quick and
Go for it.
continue,
No,
but
go
I'm
for
like,
it.
I'm just, well, just with like the internet, right? Like, you again, like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago, you were talking about the internet and how we kind of grew up. I grew up with dial-up internet,
Sure.
right? I still remember like the thing, and it was kind of like, we had to like, yeah, dad's like, stop, right? Like, no calls. I need to,
Yeah,
I
don't
need
pick
to
up
go
the
send
phone.
an email.
Don't pick up the
Yeah,
phone.
don't pick up the phone. Yeah. Or like long distance calls, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like you gotta wait, and there's an operator connecting you.
Yeah.
Right now it's like Skype call,
Now Skype,
WhatsApp call,
WhatsApp, yeah,
yeah.
voice.
And the library, right? It's like, I remember when I was doing a project, right? And again, it was probably, well, it was grade 3, grade 4, and it's like I had to go to a library,
Physical
went to
book.
the catalog,
You got
physical book.
physical book, or you got to look
Physical
at the
book.
encyclopedia.
Yeah, there's no such thing as Wikipedia, right? There's no such thing as Google.
Yeah.
It was literally, I had to go and look at this catalog, find the book, sign out my name, rent it for like, loan it for seven days or whatever it was, and physically read the book for information. There was no control F and find it. It was literally I had to read to get information to make my speech, right, for my grade 3 class about dolphin, right? It wasn't a Google search dolphin and all these images and put up a crazy PowerPoint and away we go, right? And I mean, I don't think I was I at that age? I think in between, like when I sent out university applications, I think online applications was acceptable, but some things I still had to send by mail.
Sure.
Which I think is craziness nowadays, right? Everything's like Dropbox or Google Drive. But anyways, continue. I just have to jump in that. Yeah, it was. It's just like this now.
No. Your comments are completely complimentary, right? But at the end of the day, like we will continue to consume. That's the thing. Like our minds are at this point, like. Whether you're a millennial or Gen Z or even some Gen X's, right? Like, those who've been really, adapted with technology nowadays, right? If you want food, right, you order, there's an app
Uber
for
Eats?
that, right? Uber Eats, right? If you want groceries, shit, I just used Instacart the first time this year, like a month ago. I can get groceries delivered to my door from Costco with Costco prices. Sure, I got to tip the guy and I got to pay a delivery fee, but it's tax season right now. I couldn't care about the $40 that I'm going to spend to, get someone to get $200 worth of groceries for me, right?
Fair enough.
No, like the whole concept of instant gratification right now is going to screw us, right? In the sense, okay, and I'm going to bring this back to money right now. I mean, we're paying for this instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
And, if we're not saving money, I mean, I just, I mentioned, like, we have, two couples, they make $60,000 a year, right? They're consultants. They work for a large consulting company. They work 12 hours a day. They probably make like $15 an hour at the end of the day. But I mean, they pay their mortgages and everything. And let's just even before that. I mean, they're just saving for their down payment, right?
Right.
At the same time, they're being offered all these avenues of instant gratification that's going to cost them money out of their pockets, right? Which will continue. If they're not saving to purchase assets at the end of the day in an inflationary environment, right? They're basically losing out, right?
Well, to just jump on that again, like think about Amazon, right? Before we had to physically go out to a store to buy things.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you click a button, right? Amazon makes it so easy. You load up your credit card, give them promotion, load up. Yeah,
I get a package,
and it's like,
I got diapers yesterday. I got headphones today. I got formula today. I got I get a package from Amazon every day. Sure, I'll pay the price. Right. It's a hidden cost. It's embedded in the price for Prime, right?
Yeah. But no, that's the thing. It's like you click a button now and things will just arrive at your door the next day.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a thing.
We used to laugh at this stuff, right? Like remember when Amazon I don't know if it still exists. Like Amazon had these buttons that you could like put onto your, like it was a physical button that you programmed it to be dish detergent, and when you add dish detergent, you just hit that button, and basically it puts it in your Amazon cart, and basically it's ready to go. I don't actually know if they still existed, but like it's so easy to spend money. Right?
Yes.
It's so easy that these companies make it so easy for millennials and Gen Zs to basically lose money out of their pockets, right? Yeah. That, we've basically become a target, right? The boomers, the Gen Xers, they were never subjected to this crap, right?
No.
The crap never existed, right? The technology didn't exist, right? Now everyone wants a Tesla, right? Who has $60,000, and I'm being generous here, $60,000 to buy a Tesla, right? When we were growing up, my first car was a Suzuki Grand Vitara. It was like $10,000. It had
Honda Civic 1999, 200 clicks.
Who buys a used Civic or a used Suzuki nowadays? No, everyone wants the best, right? And they're willing to get a loan for it. They'll get a $700 a month lease on it, to have the convenience of whatever a Tesla or a Mercedes can do, right?
Right.
The next big thing, right?
Right. But to jump on that, I mean, and we might be fraying out here, but like the education system, like should I be responsible? Because I mean, I remember in planning 10, I wasn't taught how to yeah,
Planning.
planning
I
10,
had that. I
career,
had career and
right?
personal planning.
Career and personal planning. That class about for personal finance, remember quite clearly,
Yeah.
our
Can you
project
live on
was to.
minimum wage? Did you have that? Can you
No, I
survive
didn't
on?
have that.
Oh,
I
okay.
had, can you afford a car loan?
Sure.
Right? It was like, how do you do a car loan? And I was like, wouldn't it be better if I was taught how to get a mortgage at grade 10?
Yeah.
But no, they taught us because I guess the assumption was everyone wants to get a car when they're 16 because they're going to get a driving license.
Yeah.
So that's more attractive. So everyone was like, doing a project on car loan. I remember doing it. And I
Yeah.
was kind of like, this is crazy. How much interest do you have to pay? And I was kind of like, that's when I was like, and then my car depreciates. I'm not going to get a car. Like this was not helpful. And then when I needed to get my mortgage, I was like, okay, I had to learn it through, I was a bank teller and I got promoted and I was like, I had no concept of mortgage. I had to ask my seniors, right? I'm like, how do you get a mortgage? Right. And had I not been at a bank, I probably again would have been skin clean by a mortgage broker. It's like, oh, I'll just do this and all that, right? And it's like, why isn't this stuff taught, right? Like the asset generation, all this stuff. We're taught to spend, or we don't even have
We're
to
taught to
teach
spend.
someone
No,
to spend.
we're taught to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
We're taught to get a job, right? And this is all over YouTube or any blog out there. The education system since like the 1950s is structured to teach us to get a job.
Right? Yeah.
And to basically be a cog in the system.
And that's what the business school is. I think I was talking to a friend about it. It's like, to train them to be managers, to be senior executives, and that's why you got all these big companies.
You only get one senior executive, right? But we're
not
taught
nowadays.
We're taught we're taught to be wealth advisors. We're taught to be senior accountants, right?
Yeah.
Because the system needs them, right? The system needs auditors. The system needs financial planners, right?
Yeah.
Right. We're taught to be, like you said, managers, right? It doesn't matter. Manager of what's it not or something, right? It doesn't even matter, right? But we're taught to basically be an employees, right? I think the biggest problem with the education system is we're basically being taught by people who have jobs. Right? We're not even if you take a business class in high school, right?
Yep.
And let's just call that entrepreneurship 12, right? For grade 12, right?
Yeah.
This teacher's never had a business.
Yep.
Maybe they have. Maybe they sold trinkets online on Etsy or something, right? But is that a successful business? It might be, right? I'm not gonna say all business teachers are crap, right? There are probably some business teachers
some good
out
ones.
there.
Mine was pretty good.
Sure, right? But no, a majority of these people, right? Or I'm just not these people. Some of these teachers out there, right?
Yeah.
They've all had a job for their entire life.
Right.
How are you gonna teach the individual, right, to be free from financial pressures, right? They're living to paycheck, most of them, right? They go, they're a teacher, they make 80 grand, they lose a good load of that to, Social Security, employment insurance, taxes, and union dues, right?
Yeah.
Like they go home with nothing, right? I actually feel real bad for teachers, and I recognize it that when teachers go on strike and they basically say they have no money, they should really take a look at their advice slip for, how much of the deductions are, right? Because basically it's I used to teach at college, okay?
Right.
I taught one term at college, and they paid. It was like first year, junior lecturer position. It was $8,000 a course, right?
Right.
I went home with 40% of my salary. Okay. Now, it was a part-time, right? Because a lot of the deductions pay from like my medical benefits and everything, right? But I went home with 40% of my salary, right? But I mean, like these education, our education system is basically, it's breeding the worker, right? It's not it's not teaching you, how to save, how to you'll do little projects in school, how to get them what stocks to buy, and at the end of the term, whose portfolio did the best. That's just pure luck. Right? Whoever bought Apple and Microsoft, right, basically won, right? If you bought Bank of America, you probably middle of the class or something, right? But if you bought Apple, Microsoft, you pretty much won, right? By the end of the term, right? But then again, everyone in that class would have bought Apple and Microsoft, so it wouldn't even matter.
Are you sure it's not buying GameStop?
Depends on the year and the term that you're in, right? If you bought GameStop in 2021 in the fall, the winter session, right? Then sure you would have won, right? But in any other circumstance, like you bought GameStop in any other year, you would have, you probably would have been the bottom of the pack, right? But like I'm saying, like I mean, you brought out a really good topic. I think our education system, failed a lot of, not only our generation, but virtually every generation at this point, who did
Well,
have access to, I think specifically maybe our generation. I think the Gen Zs are pretty lucky.
right.
I mean, they're born with the internet, right? We
I
were
think you
born.
just search it up.
I mean, we
Yeah.
were born. We had the internet, right? We
Yeah.
had Web 1.0, right? We didn't have
Right.
Wikipedia. We didn't have YouTube. And there's a wealth of information on the internet that gives you a way better perspective of things that are basically than what's taught in school, right? You
Right.
go to school because it's daycare for teenagers, and
Right.
basically you get a certificate that basically says you're allowed to pursue adulthood at this point.
Right.
And
I had
very
no life skills. I have no life skills when I
I
graduated.
had no life
I had a
skills.
lot of book knowledge,
No, I had no
but I
book
didn't
knowledge
know.
either. I knew how to get an A. Okay,
Yeah, that's exactly.
that
I had
basically school taught me how to get an A, right?
how to perform.
No,
I didn't know
not
how
how
to.
to perform. It taught me how to get an A on an exam.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. I'll tell you this. When I
Yeah.
went to university, my first year university, I did not understand what the hell debit and credit was.
Yep.
I didn't
Me
understand
neither.
debit and credit until I started my first day at work. I memorized accounting transactions to pass my exam. I'll admit that. My university
Yep.
failed. My paid private education failed me
Yes.
in the sense that they gave me a bachelor's degree and I had no idea what I was doing in the profession I'm doing today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, case in point, right? I just did a recent. I was on like CFP. They had mock exams to write, and like I was writing it again. Like just again, I had when I got my CFP was in 2020, so like 2 years more of experience, kind of working in the profession. So I retook it to just kind of again test to see, am I fit to be a CFP, and like what are they testing right now? I walked out of the exam, like I had to comment and do other stuff. I had time remaining to check over all the answers and stuff. And I remember in 2020 when I had, my son, right? He was just born on my lap studying. I was frantically, I was sweating bullets. And when I was doing the exam, I ran out of time because I was kind of like, it was so new to me. And like you said, it's that work experience. 2 years of working with clients, seeing the different scenarios. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is like, oh, this client case right here. Oh, this one, oh yeah, I had a case right here. It was just kind of like, okay, this is so easy. But when I first did it, right, like you said, I had to memorize. I had to, buy 1,000 questions, did all the questions, did all these things because it was just regurgitation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I grew
That's
up
exactly what it is.
regurgitating.
Without
And
application.
what? No application,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna go, A plus B equal to C, and it's like, okay, please let me remember this, and yeah, and it's just kind of one of those things where, and that's the thing with the education system is that it's with it's just you got to spit out, you got to memorize. I mean, I think they're trying to improve it, but it's scary because I did tutoring about 2 years ago as well, and it was kind of like they didn't know the times tables, right? They just kind of let them use the calculators and figure it out, and they have all these like independent guided studies, right?
Sure.
And it's almost like, okay, sure, I support that. Like every different person has like a different thing they want to study. But it's like that teacher was kind of like, just like, okay, you figure it out. And they kind of just sit back and just like, okay, just show me what you got. And I'm like, no, these are grade 6, 7, 8 students. You need to structure it a little bit more. It's not, oh yeah, independent study. So, go figure it out, kids. They're they don't know. So then they'll just go and they do their best, but it's like, is that really learning? I mean, yeah, I get the idea of independent study, but provide some structure, provide some guidance, provide kind of where to go to if this is what their exploration is, right? Not like, when people think of independent study, I remember when I was like, in scouts, it was kind of like, okay, like we were 14 to 17. It was, our advisor was just kind of like, here, figure out this project. And we're like looking at each other and like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what do we do with this freedom? Because we didn't grow up with freedom, right? I mean, we grow up with, okay, you got to do this. A plus B is equal to C. And so suddenly we get this freedom and you're like, go figure it out. And you're like, oh, and I think that's what happened with me in university. Like, I was like, okay, schedule was this and this. And then now I get to set my own schedule. And then I kind of go in there. I'm like, wait a minute, like what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, I went to IB, right? IB promised that it's like, oh, we're gonna kind of give you a simulation of what. Thank you. But no, it was just more cram, right? Theory of knowledge, this, get more grades, and it says it's supposed to prepare me for university. It prepared me maybe academically of how tough it was, but socially I was not prepared, right? I was not prepared to go and make friends. I was not prepared EQ, right? It was
Yeah.
just, again, do more
No,
stuff.
there's no EQ in school. You don't learn that. You don't learn EQ in
Well,
school.
I mean, in business school you do, right? I did. I mean,
I
when I went
didn't.
to those,
I didn't.
oh,
We went to
okay,
the
well,
same school, right?
well, maybe 5 years later they improved it, and
Maybe.
I just
Sure.
recently went back, and like these are the soft skills that they're starting to teach at the career center, right? It's like how to do a resume, how to budget. They're teaching these things and networking and stuff like that. And mind you, like they are focusing more on the emotional intelligence piece, right? I just went to like a leadership and personal development class. I was an alum, and they invite back the alumni, every year, one alumni weekend. And I was pleasantly surprised. They actually brought up the topic of faith in work, which they're like, how come we can't talk about faith in school, right? And again, like for all the years, like even our instructor, like he's been teaching. I think he's retiring this year. But he was like, yeah, this is a good topic, and we never broached it. But they don't, like, I remember when I was in the class and it was like speak up, like people would like bang on their desk and be like, speak up. I was like, come on, like it was that like rowdy, right?
Sure.
Here they're very respectful. They're like, like, oh, can you speak up? Or they just kind of like they're just naturally speak up more. But what I'm trying to get here is, like, I think we are progressing with kind of like that recognition of more emotional intelligence is needed, more capacity, even like with my son, right? I specifically chose, or me and my wife, we specifically chose to not do Montessori, but like a play-based, kind of outdoor-based environment.
Yeah.
Because we recognize, I'm like, okay, he's going to go to the school system. He's going to get that for the next 12 years, starting at age 5. He doesn't need more of that. But I think what he needs more of is the social dynamic. And, my son was born, in COVID times. And so he started with kind of this, right? This was like virtual reality, right? 101. Like he didn't have the play dates. He didn't have the things. He was just stuck at home, with mom and dad. And it's kind of how I grew up, right? And I recognize I'm screwed up. I'm like, okay, I had no social cues. Like my parents, like it was just me and mom for the first 5 years of my life. And it's like, I don't know how to make friends.
Yeah.
Right. I was socially awkward. Like, I had to earn like my love. I felt I had to earn my love. Like growing up, like I was the cool kid because I got straight A's and I was helping people.
Sure.
So I was like, you know what? I gotta keep getting straight A's because that's why people love me, not because of who I am as Kenold, but it's like because I got straight A's. I'm that nerd that is kind of cool to talk to and would teach people. And when I lost that status in university, I was like, who am I? Right? And so
I think
going back
that's the two of us. I went from like a 90 average to like a 56 average in first year.
Oh, high five. I mean, I didn't get that. I got like, maybe that's where the IB difference came in. I got 78, but I worked like a dog. I had no friends. I had I had a couple buddies, but it was like, I lived out, in Coquitlam at the time, and to UBC, that was an hour and 30 commute.
Yeah.
Because I was a mama's boy, right? I was like, oh, I don't want to go live on my own, figure out cooking and cleaning. I'm like, I want mom to do it, right? I'm like, I got to focus on school, right? I was taught to focus on school. But I missed out on the first year of like living on my own, like just exploring life. But I was scared. I was a scared little boy.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was like for my son, I was like, no, you're not going to be a scared little boy. You're going to learn to be independent. And I'm going to encourage you to be independent. And you're going to take risk and take calculated risk. And it's going to be okay. Right. I was never brought up to be okay with emotions. Right. It was like parents grew up.
I know that.
And they told me, right, shut up, don't cry, right? Men don't cry, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's not safe to cry, right? Here my son is wailing, and now I'm kind of like, you know what? It's okay, Cohen. It's okay to cry. Like, it's just like when we're driving home today, right? He saw this gas attendant, and then the gas attendant's like, oh, your boy is shy. And I was like, no, he's not shy. He's just tired, right? He had a long day. And he started crying. Sure. And then I guess it scared the gas attendant away. And like me and my wife were just like, hey, Cohen, we're here. It's okay. It's okay, right? Okaying the emotions, which again, growing up, that was never okay, right? It was like shut down the emotions.
Shut
we
up.
Don't know what to do.
Don't cry.
And that was it.
But that screws up a lot of boys. You realize that?
I know.
That's suppression of feelings type of thing. How it affects men today. Again,
Well, that's why you have
entirely
Movember and
different
stuff.
topic.
Yeah, and we'll branch off of that because I got a lot to say. I actually got a podcast too. If you should look up my name on Spotify, I got one on there, and yeah, probably on an episode we can kind of dive into a bit more. But yeah, back to the education system. Screwing us over.
I think regardless, if we're going down the education route right now, if we're going down that rabbit hole. I think, no, to back it up a bit, right? Where I wanted to go with that discussion is, we, as a millennial, we had very limited sources of knowledge, right?
Right.
Primarily, our knowledge came from school, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you go to the library, you look at the encyclopedia, you write a book report on it, right? If you had a few bucks, you would buy the Coles Notes, like a physical book that tells you the summary of the novel, and you write your book report on that, right? Whereas now, right? I would say no. Those who are still millennials, maybe I'm gonna say your age in the '90s, maybe towards '95, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could use maybe even later. I'm gonna say 2000s at this point, right? If you want to do a book report, it's all on the internet, right?
Yeah, you can pay someone to do it for you too.
Yeah, you want it, you just go to Fiverr and you basically pay someone $9.99. They'll paraphrase the book report for you of an existing copy, right? Someone who got an A on the report, they'll paraphrase it for you, and they're not from a third world country. They're probably like an English literacy major in Europe or something, right? We're
side hustle.
They're probably like a master student in some university over there or something, right? But you could pay someone if you really want to get it done, right? What I'm saying is, like, our generation, like where we are today, like I started this conversation with cost of living, earning power. And that sort, right? Where the Gen Zs, they're very comfortable in thinking that one day they will own a home, whereas the millennials at this time, based on survey analysis, not as confident as the Gen Zs. But it happened to be that hump or that hurdle of the information age, where the internet was readily available to a generation, where at our generation it was just becoming a thing. Right. Whereas, we're in our late 30s. Oh, I'm in my late 30s now. Right. My competence and knowledge is probably on par with someone who's 20 years old right now. Maybe not the application. Right. Maybe not the work experience or the EQ at the end of the day, but their working knowledge of whatever, of fire movement. Fire movement didn't even exist back when we were growing up. Concept was like so far
work till
overhead.
65. Yeah.
You go to school, you get a job.
Freedom 55.
Oh, sure, Freedom 55. You get a job. Well, Freedom 55 was more, put your money here and we'll invest it for you for 30 years, and by 55 you'll be retired, right? Like, that was the concept, right? And you put away, back in our day, right? You put away 10% of your salary. You heard that one before.
Oh yeah.
Right? Now, with fire movement, you put away 70% of your salary, so you retire in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Really
that concept,
yeah.
No one even thought of that, right? Trinity study, right?
Yeah.
4% rule, right?
Yeah.
The concept never existed, right?
Yes.
If you're 13 years old and you Google 4% rule, or you watch YouTube videos, and let's just say you're on YouTube, right? You're 13 years old, you're on YouTube. You love Bitcoin, or you love cryptocurrency. And somehow through cryptocurrency, you get some guru who tells you about Trinity study and how you need 4%, of your cost of living to retire, right?
Right.
That means by 18, you're going to school, you get a part-time job, you're putting away 70% of your money, right?
Right.
I mean, your part-time job maybe it pays you like $500-$600 a month, but you're putting away, $300. You're spending $200, $100 goes to taxes or something, right?
Yeah.
If I had $500, I'm gonna go buy a snowboard. That's exactly what I did. I worked for Best Buy. I got, I had a part-time job at Best Buy. I worked, and basically I bought video games and I bought skis. I didn't snowboard. Right? I spent my money, right? Because my parents would always say, or not my parents, my mom specifically would say, Brandon, save your money.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Okay, you save your money, you put it in the bank, so what? Right?
Yeah.
The concept of investments, right? That concept of investment. No, my mom was buy bonds, 100% bonds, right? I don't know anyone who tell you go buy 100% bond fund, right? That's bullshit.
Not in this day
But
and
no,
age.
that's what my mom knew, right? And that was the knowledge that was instilled with me. Bonds are safe. You put your money in bonds, you get at that time 3%.
Or
No,
GICs, so we're
well, it's just,
paying
yeah,
high.
term deposit bonds, GICs, all the same
Yeah.
shit at the end of the day, right? You make your
Well, not bonds. Bonds you actually lose value. GICs though, you actually the
yeah, okay,
principal
the
is
principal is
guaranteed.
protected, right? But the bond, you get your coupons, and at the end of the
Yeah.
term, right? I mean, you could
Yes.
sell your bond, but at the end of the
Yeah.
term, you're still guaranteed your principal,
True.
right?
True. But
And
you gotta hold for
but you
that
got to
long, right? You don't
hold. You're
trade. You
holding.
can't trade the
You
bond,
can't
right?
trade it, right? Because you need your principal back, right? But
Yeah.
that knowledge of that financial knowledge, and I mean, you do a lot of financial education, right?
Yes.
20 years ago, 25 years ago, no, the concept of sharing that financial knowledge, it typically lied with financial advisors, right?
Yes.
And no, the financial advisors during those times, they purchased you. ETFs didn't exist back then. No,
No.
they did. They did. ETFs did exist.
Really?
Vanguard existed.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but they were a mutual fund company. They push mutual
Okay.
funds.
Fair enough. Right. But I mean, at the end of the day, like like the financial education, it typically laid with financial advisors, and it wasn't shared among public, right? Whereas
No.
with and I never understood these. Like I worked in in accounting, I would see what all these clients of my boss did, right? Like you have
Right.
these clients, somehow all their life they amassed $3 or $4 million, and they're buying
Yep.
a whole bunch of stock, mainly stocks, some mutual funds and whatnot, right?
Hmm.
Depending on the profession, of course, right? They're doctors are
Right.
with like MD management or something, right? But
Right.
they have they amass like 2, 3, $4 million, and they're living on that, right? But it
Yep.
took me till like 20. What I started working at 22, 23.
Hmm.
I think I was working at
Yeah.
23. I don't remember. Let's just say I was working at 23, right? I didn't
Yeah.
understand, the concept of, oh, you have $2 million that pays you 5%, you got $100,000 a year for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
Like that concept was, okay. So suddenly, like as a millennial, I
Yeah.
understood. Okay, my mom told me to save my money. I'm making
Yeah.
$27,000 a year. I go home with $900 a paycheck or $1,800 a month. It's gonna take me a long time to get $2 million, right? And $2 million
Yeah.
by the time I'm in 2050, it's meaningless, right?
Yeah.
Inflation has just crushed me, right? But I mean, like, I'm 25 years old and I'm figuring this out, whereas a 13-year-old who's interested in cryptocurrency off of YouTube could figure this out, right?
Yep.
They got a decade of knowledge ahead of me, right?
Time
Whereas,
is money.
well, the thing is, I'm 37. I think I said I'm 37, right?
Yeah.
I'm 37 this year, right? I'm just saying, like, me as a millennial, right? And I don't
Yeah.
represent all millennials, but myself as a millennial, I
Right.
got screwed in this generation, right?
Yes.
Because the information age, the concept of the internet was not readily available when I was
Right.
going through my career, and I'm going through the same cost pressures as everybody else at this time.
Right. But I would tend to disagree because I
Go
think,
for it.
yeah, I mean, you say we're screwed, but at the same time, I think it's a gift. And why I say it's a gift is because we are kind of the connection between the Gen Zs and the baby boomers,
Sure.
right? We were in the middle where we had dial-up internet, but also kind of grew up with some form of internet.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if there's some studies, but I read somewhere it was kind of like, yeah, the millennials are kind of the ones that can kind of bridge the gap,
Well,
right?
we saw it,
Yeah.
but who cares?
I mean, but I mean, I care. I think it makes a difference, right? Because there's one set of like generation who's like never seen like dial-up
Nintendo.
internet, Nintendo or all that other
8-bit
stuff,
Nintendo.
right? 8-bit Nintendo, Zynga was like, they kind of look at your cassette tapes, right? MP3 players, like what are you talking about? Like it's all streaming, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like I download it and we put it on an MP3
Yeah.
player and you listen to it, right? And then we had the compact disc, we got a DVD player, like you talk to those Gen Zers right now and you're like, what? Like
Yeah.
what is that, right? And we can bridge that gap. And I think I would like to think like, yeah, we were also like we were entitled. Like I wasn't, okay, I'll speak about myself. I was entitled thinking I need to land that big position.
Sure.
But now you kind of grow up and you're kind of like, okay, you know what? I realize that, hey, you know what? We need to work for it and it's okay, right? And my fear is like these Gen Zers are kind of like, you know what? I'll figure it out. I'll go on, YouTube. I'll go do all these other things, because I can, this internet, the world of opportunity. And they just kind of, run that hamster wheel and be like, okay, because I feel entitled, and then bank of mom and dad comes in and be like, we want to give you, we're going to give you money and fund it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they don't know how to work for it, because I mean, mind you, they might work for it in other ways, but I feel that they'll also lose a lot of it, because it's like, okay, they'll like the side hustle, the hustle culture, they'll hustle a lot, but is it efficient? Right? Because that pride that they have in them, we're like, oh, I get it all, right? I have the information. We're in this age where I think we have too much information, right?
I agree.
And it's like,
I agree.
and it's like, how do you process it,
Yeah.
right? And I feel that the Gen Zers, I have all this information, so I'm gonna figure it out. Really? Like, do you really know?
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah.
Right. And then and the baby boomers, right? Like, it's kind of like, okay, what's TikTok, right? Like, I talk to my parents, it's like, what's TikTok? What's Instagram? What's, they're too far away. They're now in their retired life. They're like, no, it's okay. We've made our money, and like, I'm comfortable in this. Okay, Facebook, because you have Facebook, we'll connect you, right? That's it. WhatsApp, and that's it, right? It's like, I don't care about the TikTok short reel stuff, instant gratification. No, that's not for me. I'm just gonna go travel and all that, right? We're in the middle of this all, right?
Yeah.
We have that wisdom of our parents, and we kind of saw that. And then we also kind of can understand, like, I'm starting to learn TikTok and, the streaming thing and all this other stuff, right? I'm kind of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity where, we can take this, we're screwed, and kind of turn it into like, hey, like, they're not going to think we're like, our parents, right? We're not old.
Yeah.
But we can kind of mentor them a bit and be like, for the ones that can eat some humble pie, and there are some out there, right?
There will be.
I mean, yeah, and they are so bright. They're like, they just kind of I offer them information interviews, and they will be so grateful, and they'll sign up, ask their questions, and they're really brilliant questions, right? And they think, and like you said, they have the internet to kind of ask all these things. But I think we are that gap. We are that gap to bridge. We're not that gap, sorry. We're the bridge that can bridge this gap. And I think there's some value in there, and I think that's kind of what we can do to serve is to do that, and sort of complaining about, oh, we missed out on this, and they have it easier, or like like this. I think we can turn this into a gift of bridging the differences, and I think I don't know what this role is going to be called, but like change analyst, or whatever you want to put it. I mean, they were talking about jobs, right? Like how like our kids will have jobs that don't even exist 10 20 years from now, right? So these change management consultants, right? I mean, I think we're Sim City, right? That's going to come back to play.
No, I know what you mean there, right? Like, I mean, in terms of the work, right? Like you're mentioning like where that bridge, right? And a lot of my work is intergenerational transfer. We're moving 7-figure money from boomers to I'm gonna say younger millennials and Gen Z generation at this time, right? And obviously there's work in the area, right?
Right.
I'm just saying, like, we've lost time.
Yes.
Okay, we've lost time and maybe it's just due to how fast the world has moved in the last 15 to 20 years. The world moved pretty darn fast, right?
Right.
From the early 2000s, when it was Y2K, dial-up internet was a very prominent thing, and I'm just saying, from 1999 to 2000, dial-up internet was still very prominent. Those who had cable, that was like luxury, right? Versus in 2020, right? You have you got Zoom, right? You got you don't go to an office, you work from home. That concept, right? Your full-time job is from home. It's a 6-figure job, right? You have metaverse. You have you have everyone's a cord cutter today. Everyone watches TV on demand at this point, right? I mean, that existed back then. That was TiVo back then, right?
Right.
But I mean, TiVo was not a huge thing. Where we are anyways, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we've lost essentially, like I'm saying, I like kids coming out of school right now. I think it's the perfect time for opportunity for them, right?
Right.
They've had growing up, they've had the internet, they have every opportunity and everything. And I'm saying, like, these kids coming out of school, they are as smart as I am today.
Right.
Without the experience, but I mean,
which is dangerous.
But the experience, I mean, people get that the most your biggest learning curve is in the first couple of years,
Right.
right? They will basically be on par. Like I'm saying, a kid coming out of school at 22 years old right now,
Right.
they will be on par with me at 27. I'll be
Right.
42,
Hmm.
right? We'll basically be equals. And I'm saying like these kids, like they got 15 years on us, and they will have the same knowledge and application and experience as us.
Yeah, but I mean, then that's where I'll jump back to the emotional intelligence piece, and that comes with time, I feel, right? Like it's like, yeah, they can have all the knowledge, they can have all these things, but again, I like to your point on we're growing fast and stuff. Isn't it funny then that in this world with mental illnesses, like we're the most anxious and we're the most depressed we've ever
Oh
been.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So is this kind of getting to like you said, like you're 42 and there's that 27 year, you're on par. But mind you, who knows? Maybe they have a mental illness, maybe they have all these things because they grew up too
So
fast.
much choice. That's the
Yeah,
thing. There's so much choice out there,
yeah.
right?
And they can't decide, they don't know because they're trying to process everything, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. All their friends are getting all these like side hustles
Everyone
and
has a
stuff like that.
Tesla and an iPhone 13.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not enough, right? There's that like discontent,
Insatiable
right?
need.
Yeah,
The
the instant
thirst. The
gratification.
thirst that's never quenched.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, I feel that we're in that position of a gift, right? Of being, okay, let's slow down here, right? Look, I'm 40, I'm 30, 42, you're 27. You have 20, 15 years on me. It's okay, right? It's okay to be where you are, right? And kind of just remind the next generation that, like, time is on your hands. There's no need to rush. And I think there is going to be, I mean, that's why I think the coaching business is kind of booming right now, right? You got all these people hiring coaches like 10K. Like it's crazy. It's like, what is this coaching thing? They're paid more than counselors and psychologists, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of claiming they're coaches, but hey, they have that experience, they have that mentorship. And again, these younger kids are paying for these people because it's like, yeah, I want to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the next level after the next level?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I want to get there. And so, I mean, that's what I mean, right? Maybe we just need different jobs, right? Instead of being a CFP and CPA, we just need to be coaches, right? Online coaching,
finance coach,
charge. Yeah, finance coach. That's why I didn't decide to call myself a financial planner. I call myself a wealth coach because I don't want to be grouped together with those financial planners just sells you a mutual fund, right? I want to be like, you know what? Let's look at your overall financial picture and where do you want to go, right? Let's get some clarity, right? The values. And similarly, right, as an accountant, it's like, let's get clear with your budget, right? Let's get clear with, your taxes and stuff. And I think that's kind of that's kind of where our professions are going if we want to survive. It's not like you mentioned, right? Before it was the financial advisors had this kind of secret database of information. They were able to sell that and people will pay that 2% MER because there was no access. Now everything's do it yourself, 1% or less, or like even one of the banks is offering, Simple, I guess, is offering 0% trades, and some banks are falling through like 50 free trades.
That's embedded, right? Though, that's embedded in the actual trade, right? I mean, they have the robo advisors. That's like 0.5% or something.
Yeah, no. There's some like if you buy stocks and stuff like that. I mean, in the States, it's like it's been like there forever, but I think Canada is starting. No, yeah, something like Robinhood.
No,
yeah,
but that's all embedded in the commissions. The commissions embedded in the actual price. Like you can't set. I don't know if you can set limit orders. I might be wrong there.
No, you can. Like I'm talking about TD. Yeah, TD just launched a TD Easy Trade. I just signed up for it. Yeah, and it's like 50 free trades.
The whole ETF thing, right?
No. You can actually buy actual stocks and TD ETFs. Not even So that's how they limit it, right?
Sure.
But then if you buy stocks, like I bought with CDRs and stuff, like I bought like Amazon, for example, they break it down to $20 a share and stuff. So I'm trading that commission free. I remember when I first started trading was 19. I paid $29.95 for my first trade.
Yeah.
It was very highly encouraged, buy and hold, right? I'm like, okay, I have $1,000. I'm gonna buy. I think it was like Bank of America. Actually. Oh no, Citigroup. Because it was after 08. They went back to like $20 or something like that. I was like, okay, banks, they're always gonna pay dividends, right? But I got impatient and I sold. But I tried to hold on $29.95, right? Now it's like $9.99. It's more bearable, but but again, like instant gratification, people are like, people are like my dad, right? They're like, whatever, it's the price of the transaction. But
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dad, did you realize you did 100 transactions?
Yeah. That
That's
cost you
$10 a trade.
$3,000. Yeah.
That's $1,000, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? He's like, I don't know. I just love trading. I'm like, let's give it to a professional. But yeah, besides the point, I mean, I think that's what it is. I tend to be, and maybe that's kind of like we're professions, right? Like accountants are very realistic, very kind of like let's analyze the risk. And I was a banker before, but I'm kind of the happy optimist banker. I choose to like look at the positive and like, okay, where is the growth opportunities? What can we do with this, right? And again, like my wife always tells me, okay, we got to temper that optimism a little bit, right? I need people like you, Brendan, in my life to be like, all right, those rosy glasses got to come off.
The realist.
Let's become real, right?
Yeah. No, I think you brought up some really good topics for our next discussion, like the whole discussion around mental wellness or mental health, really, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a huge thing, among not only our generation, basically everyone out there, right? There's so much choice, right?
Yep.
The processing that you basically mentioned, right? Like, 20 years ago, you didn't have as much choice, right?
No.
You didn't have, you watched whatever TV gave you, right? You
Yep.
didn't watch TV on demand, right? You didn't, you went to the store, you bought a CD
Yep.
that had preloaded songs on it.
Yep.
Right. And I mean, you can still buy albums today, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much easier, just nowadays you download the single that you want, right?
Yep.
But I mean, choice, right? I mean, if you didn't like today, like you make so many decisions today compared to, I mean, I'm not saying our parents didn't have to make as many decisions, but the number of the availability of things out there, right? That are marketed, that are even just advertised, like data dumped right in front of you as you scroll up your news feed, right? There's so much stuff available, right? You can waste time on Amazon, you can waste time on Netflix just browsing what show you want to watch, on Amazon what you want to buy, right?
Yeah.
The amount of decisions you have to make, that is brutal in terms of someone's mental health.
Oh yeah.
Right? Not just consumer purchasing, but everyday things, right? Like what school do I go to? You went to school, what degrees were there? Business, science, arts, right?
Yep.
All of a sudden you got forestry science, you got, computer
environmental
science, environmental sciences, right? Like there's just so much more opportunity. Like, I mean, that's such a small segment of what I'm trying to get at, right?
Right.
The amount of choice out there's just so much choice that, how does one cope with the amount of pressure on their mental health, right? How do they even deal with it, right?
Yeah, and from someone that was depressed, lots to talk about there. Because
everyone
it
goes
was
through depression. I went through depression in my early 20s. I think it was very. I'm not sure if it was similar to you, but like it was for me like identity crisis.
For sure. I thought I had. I mean, the most recent episode of depression I thought I had imposter syndrome, right? I got my CFP. I'm like, I am not worthy of these 3 letters, right?
Yeah.
All I did was sell mutual funds, and how dare CFP give me my CFP? Like they must have made a mistake, right? I don't know how to make a financial plan, right? And mind you, like I had the heart and I studied hard for it, right? But again, I was like, why? Like, no, it couldn't be this easy, right? People fail 2 or 3 times before they get it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the first time I had depression was like I didn't get A's anymore. And I was kind of like, oh my goodness, right? That going back to earlier, like how am I gonna have friends? People are gonna think I'm dumb. I'm gonna lose friends.
Sure.
Like I made my friends by being the straight A student. Like no one's gonna love me now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're gonna lose respect basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be that dumb kid, right?
No, it went back for me. It was all about what was my purpose.
Right.
I spent a good this was before I was even, before I even finished university. Right. I think everyone in their early, in their teens or early 20s has their episode of depression. For me, it was identity crisis, trying to figure out like what the hell was my purpose on this planet. It took me a good 2-3 years to figure out what that was, and eventually it became make as much money as I could, which, to be honest, was not a good purpose, right? Like quite frankly, like you mentioned, one of the words you mentioned, hustle culture, right?
Yep.
It has been, my biggest demon, hustle culture at the end of the day, and
You're
is
still working 7 days, man.
seven
You have a
days,
kid.
12 hours a
That's
day,
hard.
right? And hustle culture is huge in terms of like what we discussed virtually throughout all today's chat.
Yeah.
Like everyone, what I'm not gonna say everyone, to get ahead you have to have two jobs, right?
Yep.
And how hustle culture has basically pushed a lot of us to the extremes at this point just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yep.
survive. You can survive. You can get a job. You can rent a place. You can rent a cheap place. You don't have to rent extravagant
Mm-hmm.
home, right?
Yep.
But if you want to make it to that next level, I'm not saying to be like part of the 1%, right? But if you want to, be able to make that down payment to eventually own your home,
Mm-hmm.
you won't be able to do that with just a 9 to 5,
No. No.
right? And for me, like hustle culture, like when I was fired, Kenneld, right? That was I just got my mortgage, right? I was
Ooh.
paying 1401 a month. That was my mortgage plus $200 of strata fees, and
Right.
property taxes were nothing because it was a condo at the time, right? But basically,
Yep.
like I was let go, and I had to do everything I could to make a dollar,
Yep.
right? And like there were days where I actually lived off my line of credit for the first
Mm-hmm.
year of starting my business. My first year starting my business, I don't know if I told you, my revenues were 5 grand. My expenses were 7.
Ooh. Negative cash flow.
That was my first year. No, it was more than that.
Yep.
You have to remember most of it was meals and entertainment. It was only half deductible, right? But nonetheless, right? Like at the end of the day, like hustle culture became ingrained in me, where you know it was more of a survival thing, right?
Right.
And nowadays, right, with millennials and Gen Zs, right, it's almost an expectation with where real estate prices are, right?
Right.
Where if you want to be able to own your place, you're gonna have to buck up.
Yep.
It's sad.
Yep.
I think it's a little sad, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. And well, I can talk about me just recently losing my job. So that's fresh and similar thing, right?
yeah.
I've got a mortgage. Luckily, I didn't place that deal. I was gonna buy land, right? Can you
Yeah.
imagine if that deal went through and I have this piece of land
Oh
and I have
God.
to do a deal on it, and it's
Yeah.
like now I'm gonna be forced to sell my home, and then it's like, where do I live? So
Mm.
again, thank God I didn't pull that deal. Because yeah, so like my mortgage is 1.64% right now, and I've got some savings and all that, so I'm doing okay. But no, I totally get it. Like starting a business is tough. You got all these things you got to do, like just today, right? Doing this thing, I'm like, I'm gonna invest in my camera and my mic, right?
Yeah.
Expense, but it's like an investment, and a new laptop because I'm gonna be traveling around, meeting with clients and stuff like that.
Mm.
Expense, right?
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do, and yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, again, another topic for another day, but yeah, but similar to you, I just recently lost my job, and but again, I tend to look at it as, oh my goodness, I finally found the freedom, because I needed this time to kind of, I didn't know, right? I thought people who lose
And
their
just to
jobs is,
throw out to the audience out there, it's not part of the Great Resignation either. You didn't resign.
no, I did not.
Yeah.
It was not my choice. I thought I was gonna build my career with this company.
Yeah.
They thought otherwise. I mean, I stood my ground on a couple of things, and I guess they weren't too happy with it. But I was like, no, I know kind of the demands out there. I know kind of the great resignation that's out there, and it's kind of like I had, and fair, like, to be fair, when I entered the job, I said this is what my things are, right? I didn't go in saying, like, telling them one thing. I wasn't two-faced, right?
Yeah.
It was like, this is what I want and this is what I expect. Then they changed the terms of my of my job on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, it was like I got it in the summertime, and they said, we're not going to go back to the office until January, and then in November they're like, oh, we want you back in the office. And I was like,
Yeah.
but what about the rest of the associates? And they're like, oh, well, you're different because your advisors in the office, so you got to build that relationship. I'm like, oh, building that relationship online? No, it's different. You gotta be in person. I'm like, well, no. It's like, yeah. So, and I had one car. It's like, no, you got to figure it out. I'm like, but I'm driving my son to daycare. Like, you can't just like call me. Like, even my previous position gave me like a month's time to kind of adjust and stuff, right? This was like literally a 1 week's notice. It's like, we expect you to the office next day. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things that we can kind of dive on, but again, it was kind of like, no, like it's again, it's with my psychologist that I see, right? She always tells me, do the opposite, right? So I had an opportunity to either kind of, neglect my family and be like my dad and just kind of work and,
Yeah.
and just kind of be like, okay, I'm going to say yes and to all your demands and, work overtime and just kind of be the good soldier. Or I'm like, no, I have this brilliant opportunity to be like, no, I'm going to stop that because I'm going to spend time with my kids and my family because I don't want to be like the rest of my older clients who all tell me, I wish I spent more time with the kids, right? All of them, when they're at that retirement age at my previous firm, like when I was a financial planner, like they're 55 to 65, they all tell me, oh, when I told them I had a son, oh my goodness, what I wished if I spent more time with them.
Yeah.
And thankfully to COVID, right? Like COVID kind of was like forced parental leave for me because everything was shut down. And had it not been for COVID, I probably would have worked through it. But it was like, no, I was stuck at home and I heard the cries of my son. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what my mom had to deal with. This is what all the rest of the women had to deal with, is like, changing diaper. Oh, it's the easy thing. No, I was
No way,
doing that.
man.
And I was like, it's not easy. It's not.
I have, since the birth of my son, right? I have to wonder, like, like, I'm gonna say our generation, there's a lot of people who get nannies right now, right?
Yes.
I don't have a nanny, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've proposed the idea to my wife. Let's get a nanny, right?
Right.
Night nanny, really. I just want the night nanny.
Yeah.
but I mean, my wife has said no at this point, right? But
Right.
I look back at our parents' generation, where man would go out to work, woman would stay home, rear the children at the end of the day. I wonder how our moms did it, by themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at home 24 hours a day. No, I work from home, right?
Right.
I go out occasionally, but maybe one day a week. But no, generally I work from home. And my wife is she's on leave right now, right? Maternity leave. Like, the two of us together, we're having a tough time raising one kid. How the hell did our parents do it?
Not just parent.
Oh, parent.
Parent.
How did our mom do it?
Our mom did it.
So I mean, like, the moms out there, or the moms out there of our parents' generation, like, kudos, man. Like, I don't know how they did it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
even
going without going crazy.
Yeah, they didn't. They kept their composure together, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the thing, right? And then back then too, it was kind of frowned upon, right? It was kind of like, okay, like, you're a housewife. It's like, you're a housewife, negative connotation. I'm like, no, you put that on LinkedIn. You know what housewives do? Like, man, they raise a kid, they wash dishes, they do all these things. You put an economic value. I think there was a study done. Like, you're like a CEO of the house.
Pretty much.
I think that's what you should call that.
Yeah.
Like, you drive the kids to ABC sport. You have to cook the food. You have to do all these sort of things.
It's a full-time job, if not even more. It's a full-time job with overtime.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing, right?
But people don't recognize that, really.
Yeah, and with my previous firm, that's the thing. They were like, they're all about woman empowerment, right? Like, my manager was female, and I was like, I saw it in her eyes. She was like about to say, like, how come your wife is not able to do daycare, right? She was biting her lip, like, because I asked her, like, I gotta pick up my son, I gotta do this, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, let's make this work, right?
Interesting.
because they have this culture. But I'm pretty sure in the background I was kind of like, okay, what is this guy doing, right? Why can't the wife step in? Why can't all this stuff come in? And it got to a point where it was kind of like, okay, it was intolerable, right? But I was like, no, like, okay, if we're about gender equality, we're about kind of like equal pay and stuff. And isn't it funny that it's like, it's maternity? I mean, now it's more parental leave, but still, you go talk about the whole like gender pay equality thing, then pay the husbands to go on like paternity leave properly. Don't just kind of give the woman the like the 6 whatever it is, like, early because they have the kid in them.
Yeah.
Give the dad the same thing, right? Then we can learn to support, right? Like, it's like, okay, like, the reason why, like, I didn't take paternity leave when I had my kid was kind of like, okay, it doesn't make sense. I have a mortgage to pay, and
that's
as much as I want to be there,
though. Yeah. Ken, like, at the end of the day, like, I built my life around the fact that for the past 10 years, I knew I would have children one day, right?
Right.
Albeit I had children very late in my life, right? But I built my life around the fact that I won't have a dual income. Right? If I had a child and my wife has to take off, right?
Yeah.
There will not be 2 incomes, coming into this household to support cost
Right.
of living today. And no, this last 2 hours at this point, I basically said, if you live in this city where we are now, on a West
Right.
Coast city, that no a West Coast major city, right, where that be Vancouver, San Fran, Seattle, LA, right, like you're gonna need to work pretty damn hard or make a lot of money in order to
Yeah.
afford a home, right?
Hmm.
And if suddenly you're basing your household income on two salaries,
Two
and now
salaries.
your spouse has to take off on mat leave, right? How are you going to support your household,
And that was me
right?
getting my
I mean
first mortgage.
that's difficult, but I mean I'm talking about like people our age.
Yeah.
I'm circling back to the whole millennial conversation, Kennel,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. That's
People
what our
our
topic is.
age who are just at this point buying their first home or upgrading their home due to a larger family, and they're spending $1 million to buy that home, right? They're servicing debt at 5 grand, 6 grand a month, and
Yeah.
now suddenly their spouse who is making, let's just say it's 120. Let's just say both spouses are making 120 grand a year, right?
Yeah.
They're in their later 30s or senior management at this time. They're making 120 grand, and suddenly you're telling me that spouse is taking off for 9 months to a year, right after
Hmm.
after childbirth. Like, how do you pay the bills if 120 grand each a year? You're basically servicing debt, right? You're basically
Yeah.
servicing your mortgage, your property taxes, your strata, whatnot, right? You
Right.
are. I'm not saying you're living paycheck to paycheck, but you're not saving a whole bunch,
No.
right? And suddenly to basically say, your household income is halved, right?
Right.
Like, how do you service your debt at that point when
Yeah.
society has structured your debt servicing level based on two incomes, if not four incomes because you're a side gig, right? So if I've
On the
always
rental side.
basically based my last 10 years on the fact that I will be working, for two, right?
Yes.
In the
Yeah.
event that, when this happened, and, this happened this year, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, our household at this point is not in financial worry because,
Right.
I basically bring in the bread, right?
Yeah.
But, everyone else out there, like, I
Hmm.
worry for them, right? Like,
Yeah.
and, a lot of people nowadays are not having, in our days, I have two siblings. You have
Yeah.
two
Uh,
siblings,
I have one sibling. Yeah.
right? Your spouse
Yeah.
has like two siblings, three siblings,
Three.
siblings, right?
Yeah.
There's no family, like, there's no families of like three or four at this point. You can't
No.
afford it,
No.
right?
No.
No one can afford a 4 bedroom. Well, I'm not gonna say no one. The average person nowadays can't afford the 4 or 5 bedroom house, right?
Yep.
Everyone's being forced into two, if you're lucky, a 3 bedroom condo.
Right.
If you're lucky, because a 3 bedroom
Yes.
condo is $1 million here,
Right.
right? Everyone's being forced into a 2 bedroom condo where they can have one, maybe two kids if
Yep.
if they shared a bedroom, right?
Right.
Like, that's basically reality at this point, right?
Right. And I think that's why also people are having like kids later, right?
Kids later and less
Because
kids.
it's less kids and kids later, just because I mean, even if there are more risks to doing it, it's just economically it's hard to have it at a younger age. It's
How
just
do you
been
how do you raise two kids on six? Well, going back to that original conversation, you and your spouse finish
Yes.
university. You're 25
Yep.
years old. You get that first
Yep.
consulting job. You're making 60 grand each,
Yep.
right? You have one kid. That's fine. You got two kids now,
Yep.
and your spouse has to take mat leave on the second kid, and you're still
Yep.
making. Let's say you're making 65 grand now.
Yep.
How do you support that household?
Yep.
It's
You
hard,
don't. It's hard.
right?
Yeah.
Our generation, as a conclusion, got screwed.
So what's the topic next week?
Do you have any ideas?
I mean, we were talking about mental health. We can dive right into that one.
We can certainly go mental health, and
All right.
yeah, sounds like a plan. We can go mental health, and we can branch out from there, but with mental health as the core topic. And we'll
Sounds
see
good.
everyone Saturday,
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock next week.
Yeah, Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah. Thanks for the chat,
Cool.
Kenold.
No problem. So
Yeah.
we end a Twitch thing and then we'll have a debrief after.